Making connections, affecting the culture, just doing life. It's Engage Magazine on American Family Radio.
You know, Wesley, one thing I've not been afraid at all to mention on this program is that I am a fan of television and TV shows in general. And one of the things that I've been watching lately is, or have watched in the past, is a show called Arrow. It's based on a DC comic. And anyway, the thing is, though, there's, you know how you scroll through Facebook and videos just kind of pop up?
Yeah.
Well, randomly, one of my friends had shared a video from Arrow, and I've not watched it in a while, and so, but it showed the lead character, Steve Amell, doing his workout for this program. And if you've ever seen any kind of comic book thing, you know people are fit.
Yeah.
For these shows. They are in some serious shape. But it showed his beginning workout routine, how he starts each season, getting in shape, and all these different things. What amazed me was that he and his trainer had come up with these exercises.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, good night. This is just ridiculous, the things that these guys are doing. But Stephen Amell said in the video, you know what? I was thinking in the shower this morning, I just came up with this exercise, and then he did it, and I was just like, no. There's no way that a human being should be able to do that much stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous. But what surprised me was that he's so passionate about working out that he comes up and he's creative in his workout program. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is creativity.
Hey,
Yeah,
TJ, before I'm sure all of our Facebook people would love to watch video of you trying to do the salmon ladder.
You know what? You build me a salmon ladder, and I will do it.
Do you guys know what the salmon ladder is?
I don't know what the salmon ladder is, but I do know that we're capable of doing videos, so I'm interested now.
Well, see, the salmon ladder is where you've got you're off the ground, you've got a bar, and then you do a pull up, but at the same time
You jump.
You jump. And you lift the bar from one set of rungs to another,
Oh, I'm
elevating
tracking
it.
with you.
You've never watched American Ninja Warrior?
Exactly.
No,
American Ninja Warrior.
but I do know what you're talking
Hey,
about now.
let me
I've
tell you,
seen
my
those.
kids do American Ninja Warrior in my living room.
Yeah.
They will set up pillows, they'll jump off the couch, all that. But you know what the thing is? Thank you, Jeremy, our producer, for bringing up American Ninja Warrior, one of my favorite shows of all time, because those guys have to be so creative in coming up with these obstacles, and then the people that are doing it are creative in coming up with ways to train for obstacles that they have never seen. And so we come back to creativity, and here's the thing. I don't fancy myself an extremely creative person, but really that's more of a reflection of just kind of self-doubt than anything, because I believe that everybody is creative in some way. And to help us talk about creativity, we brought in Engage's project director, Jordan Chambly. The reason we did that is because Jordan is one of the most creative men that I've ever met, and I don't say that flippantly because Jordan you've written 2 books so far. Not published, but has written them, which is a lot further than I've gotten. But Jordan is also spearheading our YouTube channel, and so he's doing a lot of video content for us. We're going to talk about YouTube later on in the program. Cool. But first off, Jordan, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me here, TJ.
All right, guys. So I got a
All
question.
15 steps down the hallway.
Yeah, that's it. He traveled so far for it. But you know what? I do want to ask you guys something. What is your favorite form of art?
Oh gosh, art.
Yeah, well, I mean,
give me some. Throw some.
So art can mean
Yeah.
it can mean music, it can mean
Sports.
painting, it can mean what? Yeah, it actually can be sports.
Athletics.
Yeah,
No?
it really can be because
Maybe.
you have to be creative in
Yeah.
coming up with plays and coming up with counters to plays to.
But,
all of that
but we're
requires
stretching
creativity.
it, so we probably need to stop there. That's as far as we're going to go with sports because I mean,
That is stretching it.
yeah. I don't know. I really enjoy music. I mean, I know that's probably the easiest thing to say when you mention arts, but I enjoy good music.
Yeah. What about you, Jordan?
Well, many of our listeners may kind of roll their eyes a little bit, but I find video game creators fascinating.
Oh, absolutely.
They have to build worlds, not just visually, but every little idea and concept behind this world that you're playing a game through. They have to create it from the ground up.
Right. It is interactive storytelling and interactive world building.
Yeah, that's one of my dreams. Like, I still have things I want to be when I grow up, and it would be so fun to be one of those world builders. Yeah.
I completely agree.
Well, another thing along video games, videos in general, movies. I really, really love movies. And now that I've had time to think about it, listening to you, movies would be my number one.
You know what? I'm right there with you. I love movies that are based on books. Typically, I hate those movies, but I do love seeing somebody take what's on a page and then putting it onto a screen. To me, that's just a fascinating thing. But you know what? One of the things that I think we in the church have tended to kind of fall at and maybe even fail is embracing the arts.
Right.
I think that we as the American church have pulled away. We still consume media,
we consume it.
but we've kind of gotten away from creating. When you look at history, all right, when you look at the biggest patrons of the arts, and we're talking the high arts here, as in painting and classical music and things like that, the majority of the patrons were the church.
It was the church, right?
Look at the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible things of art. And then today, what does the church have to do with art? We've kind of pulled away from that.
It's interesting you say that because I agree with you, generally speaking. Absolutely. I don't think that's undeniable. I mean, I think we would all agree on that. I will say, just in the last 4 or 5 years, and Nick Dean, who's a writer and author for Engage, has written a good article on this called, I'll get the title of it here in just a second, but he wrote about it, and in the movie area, I think in the last 4 or 5 years, we've kind of seen shift back to where we see a lot of more Christian.
I completely agree, and I love that we're seeing that. Now, Jordan, you actually wrote an article at the very beginning of Engage called
Our Art and God's Glory.
Our Art and God's Glory. Tell us a little bit about that real quick.
Well, it's actually been a while since I've read my article. But the basic idea is, it's talking about that loss of ground that, we've seen in the church in the world of arts, as opposed to the Sistine Chapel, which was Christian, and it's like the highest form of art that's ever been seen in human history. It's I just kind of explored the issue a little bit, and how do we create art, and how does our creativity reflect the glory of God? But also, I talked a little bit about this. There seems to be this tendency in Christian art to be a little on the cheesy side because it's attempting to preach a sermon, have an altar call at the end. There's this very specific
formula
formula that the Christian artist feels
so
obligated
be good
to
intentions,
meet.
But does not necessarily.
The question then has to become, okay, so what makes art Christian?
What makes art Christian? I would submit that what makes art Christian is it good art? Is it good? Not is it. Does it have an altar call? Not is it, what's the word I'm looking for?
Preachy.
Preachy.
But it does bring up a really good point.
Yeah,
because you don't have to have a conversion moment in a movie for it to be a Christian
Exactly. And there's so many movies and things, and people will probably roll their eyes at this too, but there's so many movies and books and stuff that were not written to be Christian, but are.
Yeah. You're listening to, let me interrupt y'all for just a second, reset here. You're listening to Engage Magazine on American Family Radio. Thank you so much for listening this afternoon. If you've missed the first 8 or 10 minutes of the program, you can go to engagemagazine.net, and you can get the podcast there. We load up all our podcasts there. 2 of the articles we just mentioned are Entertainment Remedy, and then Jordan's article here, Our Art, God's Glory. Both of those will be up on the Facebook page. After the program, we'll get those loaded up, and they'll be on the front of the website. There's other ways you can connect to us once you get to our website. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and our brand new YouTube channel. Which
subscribe.
Just subscribe. Is that where we're going next?
Yeah, we're going to hit that. I do want to say one thing. Canada Burkhalter, which if you've listened to the program podcast, you are familiar with her. She's a writer for EngageMagazine.net. But we had this conversation about creativity, and I just wanted to share a quote from her. She said, "Perhaps we should be emphasizing the idea that instead of Christians shying away from the mediums that the world uses to make art, if we want to make them better, we should be making art in those mediums as well." So what she's saying is that, we in Engage, we always talk about engaging culture and engaging the gospel, and then engaging culture with the gospel. One of the best ways that we can do that is through creating art wherever art is being created, but we do it in a way that reflects the gospel. And so that to me is so important. So here's the thing. If you really like music, if you create music and you are a believer, create, like Jordan was saying, just create good music. Because if the gospel is in you, you cannot help but create art that's going to reflect the gospel.
Jordan made an incredible point a while ago, and I'm not going to repeat it. So if you want to hear it, you need to go back and listen to the beginning of the podcast or the radio program segment on Engage Magazine. And it was an incredible point. And he kind of mimicked what we had Neil Mallman in studio a couple weeks back on shouldn't Christians be involved in politics. But in the process of that, he made a really good point, which was similar to Jordan's. That is that he believes as Christians we should excel in every aspect of life. Like he said, he's like, I'm an engineer during the day, I'm an apologist at night type thing. You know, we should excel in all that we do. And he didn't just make that up. He didn't just dream that up. That comes from Colossians 17. Colossians 3:17 and Colossians 3:23, where it talks about what all that we do, whether it's in our words or in our actions, we do unto the Lord, not to men.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So that's kind of the thought process, and all that we do, we should be excellent at it.
Yeah, whatever it is that we do.
Even a pickup game of church basketball, okay?
Or football, whatever the case may be, the thing is, do it well. And the reason for that is because when we are creative, it's J.R.R. Tolkien, the guy who created Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Silmarillion, I can never say
Silmarillion.
So I'm too Southern to say that word. But the thing is, what he would say is that God is the creator, all right? So God is the only one who can create because he can take nothing and make something of it.
Right.
We are sub-creators, meaning that we take what God has created and we create something different out of it. So imagine a huge block of wood standing before you, and you take chisels and a hammer and you create a sculpture out of it, right? So you are sub-creating. You're taking what God created in the tree and you are creating a statue out of it. Right. So we are called to be creative, to sub-create. But when we do that, we are reflecting the image of God. And here's the thing, if you think that you are not a creative person, if you think you just cannot create, you are wrong. And we're going to explain why you're wrong, and then we're going to tell you how you can be creative in the next segment.
In a gentle way. Golly, that came out hard.
We're going to be nice about it. But here's the thing, God created you to create. So we're going to talk about that in the next segment. Stay tuned. We're going to come back with Jordan Shambly and Wesley Wildman.
We're back. It's Engage Magazine on American Family Radio.
You know, there's a big argument going on that has been for years about left brain versus right brain, and creative versus non-creative, abstract versus concrete, all of these different things. But I have a case that I want to make and I want to prove. And Wesley Wildman and Jordan Shambly, you guys can have the freedom, or even our producer, Jeremy Wiggins, always available with a smart aleck comment. You guys are more than welcome to push back against me on this. But I believe that
I'm sorry.
Every person has the ability to be creative. However, it's not always in a realm that we typically place creativity in.
That is interesting. Explain.
All right. So in other words, when we think of creativity, what we tend to think of are things like music, movies, writing, poetry, painting, things like that. However, my grandmother does none of those things. All right. But she does make the floral arrangements for her church. Every Sunday, she has flowers, you know, at the table there in front of the pulpit, and they're beautiful.
And just to make that arrangement in general is creative.
I completely agree. Absolutely. But she also gardens. And she's all about, you know, well, I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to put this there, and then I'm going to take this, and I'm going to make this thing with it, and blah, blah, blah. And she's incredibly creative when it comes to plants and gardens and flowers and things like that. She is creative, but it has nothing to do with what we would consider the arts, air quotes, the arts. So I believe that every person is creative, but when we say, well, I'm not creative, what we're saying is I'm not musical or I can't paint.
Right.
And let me tell you, I cannot draw. My 4-year-old draws better than I do. I don't. But when it comes to writing, I'm fairly creative.
You're better than your 4-year-old, right?
I am, thankfully. That may not always be true. I hope to teach her to write better than I do.
I don't know, TJ, I've read some of your articles on Engage.
Yeah, engagemagazine.net. And you know what? If you don't like the articles, you can always comment and let me know that. So and you can look for comments by
Are you
Jeremy
sure
that say
you
these are
want people
terrible.
to comment?
Well, see,
I'm just teasing. He's a very well writer.
No,
very good
you
writer.
know, one of
I write
Someone's
real
not
good.
Someone's not a well
I got the
speaker
grammar
today.
on today.
you know, one of our YouTube vlogs that talks about trolling, and I've seen some of Jeremy's comments hidden under a disguised name.
That's it.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm
So,
just
but
kidding.
you know
How
what?
did
We
you
do
figure
want
out
to
it
bring
was
that
me?
up. We do want to bring up, we have just simply a new creative outlet for Engage, and that is our YouTube channel. And Jordan, you are kind of spearheading that effort. So tell us a little bit about the vision behind our YouTube channel.
Man, it's really just a simple vision. It's for us as the Engage team to make a more personal connection with our audience. So not only do they get to read our articles and listen to us here on Engage Radio, but now they get to see our faces, kind of see what we're up to on a daily or weekly basis, and kind of get a peek into our lives. And
you actually give a tour of your office in
yeah,
your first video.
Yeah, it was kind of a little weird tour there.
Well, say little tour because little office.
It is a little office, yeah.
I want to jump in here though, because I've watched all of them, and I just want to say y'all do, and I hope to be a part of it soon.
Absolutely.
An incredible job at that. And I'm. You say you're listening, and I was saying, well, of course you're going to say that. You're part of the Engage team. That's not true. We are pretty, pretty real, pretty raw around here with our feedback for the purpose of being better and being more skilled at what we do.
We do constructive criticism.
We do
here.
a lot of constructive criticism, and I would be the first to say live if it was opposite. But it is an incredible job. Y'all need to go there. Y'all need to check out
definitely.
our Engage magazine YouTube channel. And what do they need to do when they get there?
Just subscribe.
Subscribe
and comment. Yeah.
There you go.
You know, and the thing is, we've got one segment up that's called Think and Drive, and what that is Jeremy, it's Jordan and me.
Jeremy can come too someday.
Yeah, maybe one day. I don't know if we like him that much.
Or give gas money. Go ahead.
Hey, there we go. So Jordan and I just hop into a car and we just drive and we think about things.
Yeah.
So we called it Think and Drive.
Yeah.
And we always make a stop though, which is one of my favorite parts. So one day we went to Sonic, and another day we went to Starbucks, got some coffee with 2 clumps of caramel.
Well, to get that reference, you have to watch the video.
Yeah. So in fact, it's titled what clumps.
Well, no, it's not. But
Okay. Well, it's on the title or something. But anyway, so you can always go and check us out. Jordan, tell everybody how they can find us on YouTube.
Well, let me think here.
Putting him on the spot.
I think it's just Engage Magazine.
Just go to Engage Mag. Search for Engage Magazine on YouTube. It should pop up. We don't have like a link to it on our website yet. That's something we need to take care of.
Yeah, we're working on that.
We have. It's been just a soft launch right now.
Sure.
We haven't really put it on YouTube. Maybe just once. Yeah. So we're going to push it, and then when we push it, you'll be able to see it.
Yep. So you know what? I talking about just creativity in general, and doing the research for this, I found an article on desiring God, and it's called "Make God Look Great, Create." And one of the things that the writer says, and there again, I'm going to go back to my argument that we opened up the segment with, but he says this: everyone is creative. Creativity is hardwired into our DNA by God Himself. All of us were made to be creative people. Creative juices run hot through our veins. All have an irresistible, divinely inspired impulse to create, organize, and fashion, and even points to Genesis 1:27 that God created man in His own image. As image bearers, we are called to be creative. And so one of the things that I want to talk to you guys about, because I know both of you are creative in your own ways, but for people who think that they are not creative, creativity is kind of like a muscle. Right. And if you don't exercise it, it becomes a weaker muscle. So kind of like we opened the last segment with talking about Stephen Amell, the lead character of DC's Arrow, and how he gets creative in his workouts because he wants to get stronger. Well, as we continue to create stuff, we continue to form stuff, we continue to be creative, that muscle is just going to become stronger and stronger and stronger. So how do you form that muscle? How do you exercise it? How do you start being creative? Jordan, what do you think?
Well, I do believe everyone is creative because everyone's made in the image of God, and God is a creative God. And I think going back to what you said about your grandmother, I believe, with the gardening and the flower arrangements, usually creativity is not necessarily what we think, and even it's not even enjoyable sometimes. And I think when people say, "Oh, I'm not creative," what they might be experiencing is they might be creative in something that they don't enjoy.
Or something that they find really difficult.
Right. So I
Don't
believe
expect
everybody's
creativity to become
creative.
easy.
Yeah. But don't expect to be the passionate artist all the time. But you might find if you exercise that creative muscle, then you will learn to enjoy it. Yeah.
You're listening to Engage Magazine on American Family Radio. We're so grateful that American Family Radio has given us this platform and blessed us with this. Our goal at Engage Magazine is to really engage the millennial audience and help them build a biblical worldview. And in the process, we're going to help shape their own biblical worldview.
Absolutely.
And we hope you can join the conversation. You can comment. You can give us your feedback on engagemagazine.net. Another thing that's been real interesting to me, talking about our desire is to reach the millennials with the gospel and how that gospel compels us to live a life that's honoring in Christ. But so many youth pastors and young parents and grandparents have found their way to engagemagazine.net, so that found their way there, and then when they got there, they realized some of the conversations, some of the things that was going on in the young adult's life. So it's not immune. There's no wall up around Engage.
Right.
If
we
you
don't have an age test.
There's no age test. If you're outside the millennial age group, please go ahead and go to engagemagazine.net. I went through, and y'all have heard me say this on the program. TJ, you know this. I talk about it a lot. It's real dear to my heart. I was able to do a 9-month discipleship training course from Downline Bible Institute in Memphis, really hands-on practical tips, and walk through 70% of the scriptures. It's just really, really influential in my life during those 9 months. And while we were there, one of the first things they talked about, first week, right out of the chute, they said that methods and tactics change, but the message and the strategy doesn't. And I'll just break that down just a little bit. Methods and tactics we'll talk about when it comes to creativity, but message is the gospel. It doesn't change.
Right.
And then the strategy in which God wants to convey the gospel is through us, through his people. And so that doesn't change, but the methods and tactics do. Think about the way before the Gutenberg, the press, before pages of scripture, we didn't have
the Bible was widely available.
Right. So that changed. So tactics and methods change, which is what we're talking about on this program, is being really creative in our methods and our tactics.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when it comes to things like evangelism, discipleship, and even our own personal devotion. Those things we have to be creative about. And one of the ways that we are creative, we can sit down and say, all right, I'm going to come up with something creative. And really what we're doing is not trying to be creative. We're trying to be clever because we find a problem and we want to come up with a solution to it. There's nothing wrong with that. That takes creativity. But let's call it what it is. It's us trying to be clever.
Sure.
So a couple of things that I want to look at with this. One, don't think we have to recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So whenever you're being creative, it may very well mean that what you're doing is you're taking someone else's idea.
So don't change
and
the message.
Personalizing it. Right. Don't change the message. But you know what? In all honesty, I love woodworking. Right. I love taking just scraps of wood and building something. But I have yet to just have an image in my head and then put it on paper and then build it. What I do is I find people who are much better and more gifted at designing things, and I take their plans and I build according to their plans. But I may change it, to my specific needs.
Yeah.
But that still takes creativity. It still takes a discipline. And I will tell you this, to go back to what you were talking about earlier, Jordan. Woodworking is something, it's not that I enjoy doing it, but I enjoy having done it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really enjoy when I can go into I recently built a shelf for my wife in our laundry room, and it's a floating shelf, and it looks super cool. And I can look at that thing and think, I built that because I'm the man.
Yeah.
When I was doing it, I was frustrated. I was angry. It just got on my nerves because nothing fit because I didn't cut it right. But having done it, I love it. Right. So when it comes to creating and things like that, if something's difficult for you, don't be discouraged by that. Sometimes we don't enjoy doing the thing. Sometimes we enjoy having done the things, and there's a difference there.
Yeah.
One of the things I just want to get this in. I know we've probably got 2 or 3 minutes left. I really want to get this in. We also, listening to y'all talk here, we also need to have an appreciation for others people's creativity that may not necessarily be a gift or something that we can do.
Right.
Because I can think so many times where I would just recognize, I just pause and be like, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I have no skill or gift or talent to do anything like that. And so just recognizing that and then maybe even conveying that to the person or the or the ministry that's being so creative and saying, wow, I recognize your efforts to be creative in that area.
And that's a big thing. When we learn to embrace the area in which God has created us to be creative, then we can use those gifts in the church,
That's
in the
a meme, by the
community
way. That
of
was
faith.
cool. What you just said was a meme.
So I want to go back to this article from Desiring God because they close it with this. You have creative gifts. You are a gifted musician or mechanic or teacher or dancer or woodworker or organizer or landscaper or quilter or preacher, and God wants you to use your gifts for His glory. He doesn't want you to waste them or hoard them. He wants you to use them to the benefit of those around you and to bring Him honor. He wants you to steward your gifts and not waste them. So this week, here's your challenge. Find where God has created you to be creative. And you know what? Share that with us. Come onto our Facebook page. Come onto engagemagazine.net. Talk to us. Give us a comment. Let us know how God has created you to be creative. And until next week, keep on sharing truth and applying Scripture.